Bases dropped on a new edition of Soccer Down Here. It's a Freestyle Friday. This could go anywhere because there's all kinds of different things happening right now. Marcelo Bielsa talking about Leeds United and Manchester United this weekend. Some interesting comments from him, as usual. You got wheeling and dealing in MLS. We'll get into that. Atlanta United was involved in it yesterday. We'll talk about what that could mean, what it couldn't mean. Who knows? We'll get into all of that. We'll get into Paul Pogba possibly being traded, and there's some names out there on who he could be traded for. I think we're going to see trades in Europe like we haven't seen before. This is going to get interesting. Some updates on Barcelona. Burnley might be sold. The Turkish league can't get their broadcasters to pay up. It's all kinds of stuff. It's one of those days. So we'll be bouncing around. If you guys have things you want to throw into the mix, go ahead and do it on Twitter at Soccer Down Here. You can also do it on the Twitch pitch, twitch.tv/Soccer Down Here. You can even email us, soccerdownhere@gmail. But, John, let's start with yesterday, the re-entry draft, which is usually not the most exciting piece of business. There were only a handful of players picked. But Atlanta United was involved, and Atlanta United traded up to get the number 1 pick. They traded up with FC Cincinnati, $75,000 in GAM, to move up to number 1 to take Andrew Gutman. Andrew Gutman's on loan from Celtic to Cincinnati for about 18 months. Developed with Chicago in their academy, signed with Celtic as opposed to signing with Chicago. Played 21 times this season, started 15 times with Cincinnati. I mean, he's a solid player on a bad team, I think is a fair way to put it. Where this one's a little tricky, and I've seen a lot of different bits of speculation about it, his rights are held by Atlanta United right now. His rights are held by Atlanta because he's under contract to Celtic. So his rights in Major League Soccer are held by Atlanta. Cincinnati declined whatever option they had, and I have not seen how that has been reported lately. Was it an option to extend the loan? Was it an option to make a purchase? Don't know. They declined it, so he went into the re-entry draft. Atlanta picked up his rights. Now, that could mean a lot of different things. You look at what 2021 could be. You look at a U20 World Cup that could take your left back, George Bello, away from you for a month, maybe 6 weeks, maybe more. You could use a good, solid left back who's played in this league and has experience and can fit the way you want to play. Andrew Gutman can be that. Also, there are a lot of teams who need a starting left back on a regular basis. Could you have moved up for $75,000 to grab a guy who is valued in transfer market at over $400,000? Could you flip him to somebody who might have wanted to pick him and make $50, $75, $100, $200, whatever, $1,000 in GAM? Sure, it's possible too. The biggest thing that is just the unknown here is he's under contract to Celtic. Now, we've talked to our Celtic correspondent, Jarrett Smith.
Yes.
And there are no plans for Gutman at Celtic. They've added Laxalt here in the past season. It doesn't look like they're going to be clearing room for him. So they would probably be amenable to him going out again, either on loan or a permanent deal. It didn't work for him at Celtic. It was kind of a weird move to begin with because they signed him and then they immediately wanted to loan him to Nashville in 2019. Now, that was their last USL season. MLS said, no, you can't do that. I don't know exactly why. That was a weird situation all the way around. He went to Charlotte instead for a little while, then he ended up in Cincinnati. So let's jump into all this. Okay, so what were your thoughts when first it was a trade to get to number 1, and then you get Gutman?
Well, I mean, you're obviously sitting there going, okay, I'm initially intrigued here. You have something in mind, and you're looking at a particular player, and you covered each of the possibilities here when it comes to bringing in Gutmann. It's possible depth. It's an asset that you could flip to someone else. You've traded up to sit there knowing or thinking fairly confidently that another club was interested in having him. And what you're doing is you're kind of sitting there and it's like, all right, we think so-and-so is interested. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead in the order. We're going to go ahead, get that number one, get him. And one, if that club all of a sudden isn't interested or clubs are not interested, we still have someone who we think can serve a purpose here. Or, once again, if someone's really going to knock on your door and say, hey, we want him, okay, so what's he worth to you? So what you've done is, and I know that folks used this analogy yesterday too, but it's that 3D Vulcan chess that I like to talk about. What you're doing is you're thinking a couple of different avenues at the same time with a particular individual. At the end of the day, if none of the other options of flipping him to another club turn up or turn out to your satisfaction, you still have someone who can help you with the George Bello situation, not knowing what Bello's timetable or what his calendar is going to be in 2021. So you've got a couple of different ways that this asset can be used here, either to move him on to help you out financially or to have him on your roster perhaps to help you out as a depth piece if you're losing others in a very busy 2021.
Yeah, you do need some depth. Left back, and Katie Weaver had asked about Edgar Castillo. You didn't keep him. You didn't really have, outside of Anton Walk sliding over, any cover at left back behind George Bello. So Andrew Gutmann being available is not a crazy pickup. Also, if you go back and you look at the rosters for 2020 in Cincinnati, one, Gutmann's listed as a homegrown player because he came up through Chicago's system. Cincinnati traded for his homegrown rights before signing him, so he's a homegrown, and he's also on the supplemental roster. I wouldn't imagine that would change in 2021. So you would be picking up somebody who doesn't affect your salary cap, who doesn't take up a senior roster spot, who isn't an international. He's from Chicago. So you're basically getting a free, in a lot of ways, on your salary cap backup who has experience, who's not unproven, and that's the other balancing act. Byrne mentioned, sign Caleb Wiley and play him when Bello's out. You'd have to sign him to a homegrown, which you could do, and you could make it work, but the experience factor would come into it. Now, if this was a year later and Gabriel Heinze is the manager and he had a chance to see Caleb Wiley train for a year and he's 16 but he trusts him, I think maybe we're having a different conversation. He hasn't seen him, and he won't have a whole lot of opportunity to see him and trust him in that. Having somebody who's played in the league is a safer option. It's not necessarily a better option. It's a safer option. It's a riskier option to play somebody who isn't proven in that spot. So you need some cover, and you could go down that road. Aberdeen was mentioned as well. Now, that'd be some real 3D chess in Scottish football to pull that off, but it's not that big of a deal if you wanted to whatever. And we don't. This is the thing. We don't know what purchase option would have been in the contract. We don't know what kind of move Celtic is looking for. But if Celtic doesn't want to deal with Aberdeen, but Atlanta can help get Gutmann to Aberdeen. I mean, he's an American guy, so it's not like you're trying to get a Scottish guy to Scotland. Like, he's an American guy. So just because he's an American playing for a Scottish club, I think maybe we're stretching with the Aberdeen component into it, but who knows? You've got options now. You've got a player who has played in the league, I think, over 30 times in his year and a half. Who's been solid.
Very close.
Very close. He's been solid. So if he's cover, great. If he is a spot starter, great. If he is trade bait, great. There's really no loss here, especially because he would be counted as a homegrown and as a supplemental guy. And if you go back and you look at timing and things, this is one reason why John Gallagher was in a tough spot. John Gallagher was not a homegrown. John Gallagher was going to be more than a minimum salary guy, that takes him out of the supplemental spots. You know, he was drafted, so he had some cover for being in a supplemental roster spot for a while. He would have aged out of that. He wouldn't have had the extra cover for being a draft pick at his age. He was going to have to take a senior roster spot, more than likely. I mean, we're all guessing on this stuff, right?
Yep.
That's probably where it would have happened. So then that becomes a bigger question about, okay, well, we've got 2 spots. We've got 2 international slots. If we want to make 2 big signings, and he has to move into a senior roster spot because of his age, because 24 is a cutoff on supplemental stuff, then so you get assets for somebody who wouldn't be a regular starter. Now, Gutmann's a different conversation because he would be a supplemental guy. So because of that homegrown situation, I mean, it's also weird and it gets confusing. And I went way too deep into MLS rosters and rules yesterday and gave myself a headache. But I tried, and you look at a couple different people and you get confused. Donny Toya, homegrown, but he's been traded around a few different times. He is listed as a homegrown, but he's on the senior roster. Maybe that's because of salary amount. I'm not sure. Scott Caldwell, 29 years old, homegrown for New England, one of the longest running homegrowns in the league, was listed as a supplemental roster player at 29 as a homegrown. And he was making a little more than Gutmann was last year, or in 2019, because we don't have last year's numbers. So if you think that's possible, and I would assume that would have been a lot of this process, is, you know, can he be a supplemental guy for us? If he is, and he's not a cap player, and he's not a senior roster player, and you haven't changed anything with that, then it's kind of a no-brainer for cover. But he's also trade bait if somebody says, you know, like Miami, for example, oh, yeah, we don't have a left back on the roster. We probably need one of those. Hey, I see you got somebody who's got experience. What do we have to give you? Like, that's a possibility here, too. So stay tuned. I mean, his rights are here. You'd have to deal with Celtic in terms of a loan or a purchase. You'd have to deal with that. But his rights are with Atlanta. You got him for really not much. And I think any which way you'll get more value out of it. So, good pickup.
So then is what Atlanta did with Andrew Gutmann the same that Cincinnati did with Ben Mines?
No, why would it be?
Because of just the homegrown element. If they reach an agreement with Mines on a contract, since he's a Red Bull Academy, he's designated as a homegrown for roster purposes.
Well, no, sure, yeah, but you're the biggest difference is nobody has Mines' contract. Celtic has Gutmann's contract. So, I mean, yes, from a roster perspective, it could be that, but that's not the story here. The main story is he going to be in MLS next year because he's under contract to somebody else. So that's number one. But if you can get him as a supplemental, look, that the reason why I'm pushing back on what you're saying, John, is you're talking about a teenager. Mines is still 19?
Yeah.
You're talking about a teenager with very little experience. Yes, he would be a supplemental guy and a homegrown. 20, just turned 20, okay. He hasn't played much. So, yeah, he'd be a supplemental guy, and you're not expecting a whole lot from him. You would be looking at Andrew Gutmann as cover because he's played in the league. He's not a 20-year-old with no experience. He's got experience in the league. He's 24. He's got almost 30 games. He would be, if you get somebody like that in a supplemental spot, that's where you start to stretch your roster. Having a homegrown on a supplemental spot doesn't do anything unless they're actually contributing. That's the point. So Mines is still a project. Andrew Gutmann's not. He's a solid left back. He can start in this league.
Yeah. Looking at the Pat Brennan piece, 29 appearances, 20 starts, and according to Brennan, Gutmann was available for selection in the draft, partly because his loan to FC Cincinnati from Celtic had expired. So that's what Brennan is saying.
Say that again.
Okay. He was available for selection in the draft, partly because his loan to FC Cincinnati from Scottish powerhouse Celtic FC had expired.
No, that's completely inaccurate. His loan is still good through the end of the calendar year, which doesn't matter because you're not playing games. Cincinnati declined to extend it or anything with that. Either there wasn't an extension, and they didn't negotiate one, which would be strange. There isn't a purchase option, which again would be strange. I don't know why you would have done the deal in the first place if you're Cincinnati, but Cincinnati's done some weird things before, so we'll leave that out. But, I mean, there's no partly. Like, he's not a Cincinnati player. Cincinnati had no means to keep him. So their loan, either they declined to extend it or there was no extension and no negotiation on one. So Cincinnati has no claim to him. That's why he goes to reentry. Atlanta picks his rights up there. And it's just his rights because he doesn't have a contract with MLS. His contract is with Celtic.
Okay. All right, so there you go. Thank you for the clarification.
Yeah, this stuff is really hard, first off, because it's really hard, and MLS needs to be better at it. And it's also really hard when you get a lot of things out there that are either halfway true or not true or completely false, and it's complicated to follow. And we think this is everything that we know about it. We think he would fit on a supplemental spot because there's precedent for it. He was in a supplemental spot last year. I don't think that would change. We know his rights are held by Atlanta, but not his contract. We know some stuff, and we're pretty sure on some other stuff. But that's what's hard about MLS roster rules and reentry drafts and such. So for me, he's a good depth piece that could be a valuable piece in a trade if you want to go that way. But either way, Andrew Gutmann can help you in 2021. Byrne says that Caleb Wiley would fit Heinze's profile. And I totally agree. I'm not disagreeing with that at all. I think he would. But this was an issue that people had all season long is, do you want to turn to the kids if you have to, whether it's because somebody's away on national team duty, somebody's injured, whatever, or do you want somebody who's a veteran who can come in and play and not have a dip in results? Because if you turn to the kids, you're going to have to expect some mistakes to be made. And I don't know where the fan base feels on that, to be perfectly honest. My gut is that they would not be accepting of mistakes from young players because there was a lot of criticism of George Bello this year when I felt like there was very little reason to. So that's another element here. Now, Gabriel Heinze is not really going to care about that. He's going to do what's best for the team and what's best for the group. But that's another element to how these things would be viewed. For me, Gutmann's a safer one. Mm-hmm. That way you're not putting any extra pressure on Wiley just yet. I don't know Wiley's situation. Like, I don't know if there is a thought about going to college there. I'm not sure. He's still very young. If he wants to go to college, possibly he's not going to sign a homegrown deal. I think he is a pro-level talent, and you'd love to get him signed and continue to develop him. I think he's the next in line behind Bello for a long-term player at the left side. But we don't know what his situation is. So there's a lot of moving parts in all of this.
No, and looking at, and I had viewed the pickup of Gutmann as something that could help you in multiple lanes. You know, either you hang on to him, he's a depth piece, or if you think that he can help you with assets and and working things out with AM and what have you, that if another team's really that interested, they can come after you, and then you can flip him for an increase in the assets that you ended up spending. So I thought this was a win-win pickup. Yeah.
Burned, I know how you feel about some people in the front office, I know. But this is not that. Andrew Gutmann's an attacking left back. He can get forward. He can contribute in the attack. He fits the way this team plays and wants to play. It's not about the coach. It's not about any of that. I think he's a solid player in the mix here, and I think he fits the profile. I do. We'll see what happens. We'll see if they get a deal with Celtic. That's the biggest thing, is either way. Like, anybody in MLS has got to figure out something with Celtic. I don't think Celtic wants to keep him this season. I don't think he would play there. So if they can get any kind of a return, I think they'd be happy with it. But we'll have to wait and see what Celtic wants to do as well. Jason Nix asks, you think Dallas is getting $9 to $10 million for Brian Reynolds? That rumor's popped off, and that feels very, very high. But things are starting to change really quickly. And this stuff happens sometimes. Sources are saying it was a $9.2 million offer. That's what Tom Bogert at MLSsoccer.com is reporting. I believe that was from Roma. Juventus has been mentioned. Milan has been mentioned. Lots of clubs have been mentioned for Brian Reynolds. I didn't expect that for a player with the amount of experience that he has, but if we're getting to that point where top young American talents who get first division experience are playing and now they're valued at that, well, then that changes some of the narrative a little bit about playing the kids, right? Mm-hmm. You want to, if you're looking at this from a financial gain. Now, there's always, and this is something that I think Atlanta soccer as a whole is still kind of coming to grips with. There is a component to building a team which involves selling talent. And that's Philadelphia. I think, Al's going through that with Brendan Aronson. They'll go through it more with Mark McKenzie, who I don't think will be there this year. Other players potentially. Dallas has went through that for a while, but they don't have a huge vocal fan base. We will see it here maybe more. Like the Miguel Almiron one, I think everybody knew and understood and expected. Trying to think of another one. I mean, Pitti, people had their feelings about Pitti, right or wrong. Carlos Carmona was a different situation, but we know how that one went down. Tito Villalba, different situation. He wanted out, and it sounds like, according to the reports in Paraguay, Atlanta United got a really good piece of business on selling Tito Villalba to Libertad, because the main complaint in Paraguay right now around Libertad is they spent a record transfer fee for Tito Villalba, and he hasn't done anything. He's done a little bit, but he's had some injuries, and he hasn't played all that much and all that well, and he had a really bad miss in the Libertadores. The game was done. They were eliminated. It didn't change anything, but it just sparked a lot of people who, Libertad's changed their manager since, have talked about a lot of money being spent for Tito Villalba, and I think I've seen it anywhere between $4 and $5 million, and I don't know if that's exchange rate or not. I don't know. But that one, there were some people who didn't like that move, but it sounds like it was a great piece of business, which you have to do because it increases your ability to have room with your cap to work with and also to make room for more people coming up. That's really, really important. So, Brian Reynolds, can you get 9 to 10? If somebody's offering 9 to 10, I'm taking it. I'm taking it right now. And that's not a knock on Brian Reynolds. I think he's a good young player. But if you're getting into that conversation, if you're Dallas, you get 9 to 10. And homegrowns, you get to keep all of it. And I still think, and we've talked about it before, everybody's always questioned, well, why would MLS teams want to sell players because the league gets a cut? You know that going in. Like that's like, saying I don't want to win the lottery because I got to pay taxes on it. I still want to win the lottery. Yes. If it's $40 million, I'll take 20. I don't care. Mm-hmm. I still want it. So, that's just part of the deal. But homegrowns, you don't even have that anymore. So if you get that, you get the allocation money to increase your cap. You get the cash coming in at a time when you need the cash coming in. And you can take 3-4 of it out and go sign a good player from Ecuador. Go sign a good player from Argentina. Go sign one of these players from Chivas that they're letting go. Cool. You've made money. You've bolstered your team in a spot where you needed it. You've got cover for Brian Reynolds and your namesake John Nelson in Dallas.
No relation.
But you've got cover. You got to do it. And if that's because it helps everybody else coming forward too. Because then the next kid, Caleb Wiley, might be getting $9 to $10 million down the road. The next Dallas player might be getting $9 to $10 million down the road. If you start to do this and set the market, you do it in a heartbeat. If he has any interest in going to Europe, and I would think he would say yes to this, but if he didn't want to, then okay, different conversation. But if he wants to go, and you're getting 9 to 10, don't play hardball right now. You're dramatically increasing the market. Do it. Take it and run, and then put that back into your team.
When you see a number like this, the first thing that popped into my head was, imagine what this can do for FC Dallas to continue to work on every aspect of the organization, where they can put it, where they can bring in players, where they can continue to build their roster, infrastructure, and the academy, and all these different elements that you can have for a team that has built a Brian Reynolds to this point now where you are apparently garnering interest to the $9 million level. And what you're also doing with a player like Brian Reynolds is you're setting the market value for others coming down the line. You know, you mentioned Caleb Wiley as an example for Atlanta United. Okay, so Brian Reynolds goes to Serie A, if it comes to pass, for $9 million or 9.2, €7.5 million. So then, okay, what does that mean for the next guy? What does that mean for the next team? What does that mean for MLS in general, that you're continuing to set a bar and have folks interested to this level? All it can do is help your league continue to grow, both in the national recognition of, hey, American players can play the sport, and at the same time, it can help you grow internally with the team that gets this value. It can reinforce the fact that they're doing the right things in developing players. All of these different positives that come out of this. Yes, the league gets a cut, but like you said, you know, just because the league gets a cut, you still get most of it. You can sit there and play with it in a bunch of different ways and continue to grow and prove that your thought pattern has worked.
The cut doesn't matter here. I shouldn't have even brought it up because it sent you down a tangent.
But still, I mean, just in general, just the notion of, hey, you're still going to have a boatload of money to play with for what you've done to bring a player to the international recognition. To me, it's just, what's wrong with this? The answer's nothing.
Well, nobody's arguing there is. So first off, let's not create a straw man here. Nobody's arguing that there's something wrong with it. The question is going to be, does Dallas think they can get more? And I don't think they can. I think you need to make this move because you've never seen anything like this. Josie Altidore, when he got this kind of an offer to go to Villarreal years ago, had played and scored goals in the league. He had produced a good bit. Brian Reynolds has played. He's been good. But now you're starting to buy American players on potential. That's what you see happen in Argentina. That's what you see happen in Brazil. Numbers aren't there yet, but if that's a real legit offer and you can get in the 9 to 10 million range, and sure, it could be 3 plus add-ons, it could be 6 plus incentives, whatever. There'd probably be a good sell-on fee on that too. Anything over 5, and I'm surprised here.
Yeah.
So I think you make the move and you go on, because what it starts to do is it creates that pipeline and it becomes normal for top young American talent to get these offers. Now, once you get past a few going, then I think this comes down to a situation where then MLS has to make some decisions. Do you want to just export all the young talent as it gets barely above water? That's what's happened in Argentina for years, where the best young players are getting linked at 18 when they've made 15 appearances in the first division. They're getting linked. Sometimes they're getting sold. Sometimes they get sold in ways. They go to clubs that they shouldn't. They go to situations where they're not going to play. They don't develop. Other times they do. But do you just start to decide, you know what? We don't want to purely be a selling league of our produced talent. We want to keep some. And then you get down to the situations, and maybe in this country it's just the mentality will help kind of give a little balance here, of a Jordan Morris who says, you know what, I appreciate that offer, but I don't want to go right now. I'm good. I'm going to play for my hometown team. I'm going to win trophies. I'm going to do well. Maybe later I'd be interested in that. But now I'm good. I want to help grow this. Landon Donovan, I'd rather be here. Some others will rather be here, and they need to be paid well to be here. But then others will say, you know what, I've got the opportunity. I'm going. I'm good. Let's go. So you want to see MLS have both, but I think you need this kind of thing first to open the door. You don't want MLS to purely be a selling league.
No.
You want it to be a league where you can keep people too, and every player makes the decision. Every club makes the decision. You might have selling clubs within the league, but not every club is going to sell its homegrown talent first chance they get. Dallas right now is one who has started to do that. Okay. Will others? We'll have to see. Some will, some won't.
Speaking of soccer in Texas, I haven't had the chance to catch up with you since Alexander became Verde yesterday. Alex Ring going to Austin FC.
Well, yeah, there's a whole bunch of moves. Hold that for a second, because you just skipped over something that actually fit where we were, and it was a question that came up on the Twitch pitch. Did you see where Daryl Dike is rumored to go?
No. Where's he rumored to go?
Man, I try to set you up every single time for this. Every single time. I try to set you up for your signature moment, and you blow it. Look it up.
I am. So you'll hear me banging on the
do it, because do it. You blow it every time I try to set you up for this. I'm so disappointed in you, John.
Daryl DK, news.
Ay, Dios mío.
Ahead of schedule. Yes, I meant Daryl DK.
I don't think you have the facilities for that, big man.
It's like a bunch of stuff where he's defying expectations and signing experienced strikers and all that kind of stuff.
Oh, my goodness. It's a rumor, first off, of who might be interested in Daryl DK.
Yeah. Considering that he's still with Orlando, yes. It would have to be.
We're not moving forward until you figure this out.
Well,
I'm sorry, everybody. I apologize.
If Fat Fingers would help me out here.
Do it live! I'll write it and we'll do it live!
Thank you, Bill.
Well, we can't do it live because you don't know where Daryl DK is rumored to be going. And you should have been very excited about this.
Do I get to yell at Jason Levian in a positive?
No.
Well, I don't know if I could ever yell at Jason Levian in a positive, though.
You probably should, because they're actually pretty good. You should stop being that cynical fan.
Right now, well, we lost to Derby County.
Wah, you lost the game. Wah, where are you in the table?
Should have been higher.
Wah. Where were you before?
We were second. We lost to Derby County, who's second.
No, I mean last
bottom.
year. Where were you?
Sixth.
You're higher. Shut up. Find out where Daryl DK's rumored to go. This should not be this hard.
Serious?
Somebody send him a direct message. Somebody text John.
No. This is the answer?
Yes.
Seriously?
What?
Wow. That's great.
Hold on.
Brugge.
Jeez. I try to give the man a gift. I try to help him with his gimmick, and
that hurt.
I tried. Man. Wow. Man.
Oh, that's awesome. We could talk about him forever.
Oh, good grief.
No, we won't. Daryl DK might go to Brugge.
Brugge.
Brian Reynolds might go to Brugge as well, according to some people. And DK had some interest from Europe before he went to the Super Draft. We'll see what happens. Maybe John will be up on his Club Brugge news next time.
Brugge.
Yeah, you don't get to do it 20 times after you missed your hit. No, no, that's too much. That's too much.
You said it though, so it's a trigger.
No, but you missed your spot, and you blew it. You blew it, John. You blew it. Really disappointed.
That's not a news flash.
No, it's not, but I'm still disappointed. Okay, let's go to Alexander Ring now. So he is headed to Austin in a major trade. $750,000 in GAM, another $500,000 in GAM and performance-based incentives to New York City. Good player. I've always liked him. Captain. And Claudio Reyna brought him into New York City. He knows him pretty well. Brings him to Austin now. He feels like the Dax McCarty, Anibal Godoy pickup, which is a good one because you build that spine out for Austin even further. And it doesn't hurt New York City either. And I think that's the other thing here. This is one of those rare moves that's good both ways. So they've got James Sands. They've got Keaton Parks. They've got Nicholas Acevedo, who joined them this season, young Uruguayan youth international. They've got Justin Hack, homegrown player. They're good in the central midfield. They were playing Ring on the left side last year because Ronnie Dyla wanted to go with Sands and Parks. So they had a surplus. They make the move. They bring in lots of resources. They've got 2 open designated player spots. They've got international roster spots. They got a whole bunch of GAM to work with. NYC can make some big upgrades. So everybody wins. It's a good move.
And that continues to add. What was it? Did I see where Glenn Crooks had caught up with folks, and they were trying to figure out where Ring was most comfortable, and Alex said that he was most comfortable as a 6.
He's a 6. We've known he's a 6. There's no question about where he's most comfortable. The problem is Ronnie Dylo wanted to play other people there, wanted to play James Sands there, who's really good. So you wanted to get all of them on the field. You moved Ring out to the left side, and he did okay. But no, Ring's a 6. There's no question about that.
And to add that to their back line with Ring as a 6, with everything that they're developing, I keep seeing these pieces being added by Claudio Reyna and Josh Wolf, and I'm really liking what I'm seeing about the development of Austin FC.
Yeah.
What it should look like in an 11.
I mean, what it's looking like right now is you've got a young goalkeeper in Brady Scott. You'll probably go get a starter. You've got Ben Sweat, Julio Cascante, Nick Lima, 3 guys who can start in this league on the back line. You need a good center back, probably a TAM-level guy to go with that. You've got in the central midfield Alexander Ring, Joe Corona, Ulysses Segura, pretty solid. Jared Stroud is there as well. I like the upside with him. Cecilio Dominguez is a designated player. You're expecting him to produce either on the left or coming through the middle. And then you've got John Gallagher, Rodney Redis, and Danny Houston, who, you've got some questions, I think, about all of them. Redis is a little bit more unknown. Gallagher had a good half of a season. Can he continue to do it and progress? And Danny Houston has just been inconsistent. When he's been on, he's been great. When he hasn't, he's been kind of inconsequential for San Jose. And he's, a little on the expensive side. So is he going to be a number 9 for you can count on, or do you need to go get one? Is he a reserve? Is he a rotation guy? We'll have to see. But it's coming together. It's coming together, and, I mean, right now you could have a pretty decent team. I think goalkeeper and center back are your next 2 additions outside of high-profile attacking players.
Yeah, and so would you anticipate them doing something with the next round of waiver stuff next week? Because next Tuesday's the next stage?
Yeah, it's a crapshoot. I mean, the next round of re-entry, you pick up guys' rights. So, again, this one was a little bit different with Gutmann, but from now on in re-entry, and there's one more stage to it, anybody who had an option, it doesn't exist anymore. So if you had picked up players who had an option in stage 1, you would have triggered their option. You wouldn't have negotiated. Round 2, or stage 2, you can pick a guy and negotiate a new deal with them. You're grabbing their rights before they go out in the free market, free agency. Yeah, they could. They didn't pick up anybody here, so I don't know if there was somebody that they liked, but they didn't like their option number. So we shall see. I think it's more of free agency for them. Center backs, there's players available in free agency. There's guys outside the league. It's the center back is the key. The center back, the goalkeeper, maybe the number 10, depending on how they want to play. Maybe the right wing, depending on how they want to play. But center back and goalkeeper are the next 2 I'm looking at. I think they can do both of those inside the league. I mean, it could be Brian Rowe and one of the many center backs that's available out there, and you'd be very, very solid.
Is Rowe your number 1?
As a free agent, yeah.
Because that was, because I know we bandied about a bunch of names when it came to folks in various stages, and that's why I asked if Rowe was your number 1 as a free agent.
As a free agent, yeah, there's no question.
Okay.
He is for me. Because I think he's shown he can start in this league. He's shown he can handle pressure. He's a very solid number 1 goalkeeper. Not spectacular. He's not going to blow you away with highlight saves, but he's very solid. He doesn't make mistakes.
Yeah. Tafka on Twitter, when we were talking about MLS rosters and keeping players when you're being courted down the line in the future. Mm-hmm. Tafka says, to strike that balance, MLS roster rules are going to have to make it well worth it for the club to keep the player on their roster. Mm-hmm. A Larry Bird rule with a question mark. All homegrowns are cap exempt. Something. Otherwise, multi-million-dollar transfer offers are going to be too good to turn down. Yeah,
I totally agree, and we've pushed for that kind of thing for a while. If it's career exemption while they stay in the league. If they leave the league and come back, you don't get the exemption back. But if it's while they stay in the league, they're not part of your senior roster, they're not part of your salary cap, good. If they're on the supplemental roster for that long, so you still have a roster number you have to hit, but they can stay on your supplemental, fine. You have to incentivize it, I agree. And there's ways to do it. There's definitely easy ways to do it. It's just actually creating that, because now it's flipped. Before, some of the numbers to sell wasn't worth the development cost of the next player coming through. It wasn't worth the risk. If you're starting to get 9 to 10 for right backs with limited experience in the league, okay, now we're having a different conversation. Now it's worth it to sell. You got to make it worth it for people to stay, because you want the balance. You want both.
Yeah. Let's see. We've got some other stuff. And since it is a Freestyle Friday, it is a bunch of other stuff on the Twitters.
Okay.
Edmund Gibson. Now, I did not see the match. I saw the numbers. So Edmund says, how about that Wild River match? Howler of a night by the Nacional keeper with the straight red at the 16th minute, followed by some River golazos and a half dozen on the scoreboard.
Yeah, it was bad for Nacional. Early first half red card for Sergio Roquette, and it was just like he comes out to make a clearance at the top of the 18, and I think he kind of like chopped at it, and it comes back in to the half, and instead of retreating like he should have, he decides to come out further and just goes like flying right leg into somebody. It was really dumb. So he's sent off. Took River a little bit of time. They started to find the back of the net on a regular basis. And 6-2 last night. They go to the semifinals of the Libertadores, 8-2 on aggregate. First time in Libertadores history an Argentine club has scored 6 against an Uruguayan club. Only the second time in the history of the competition to score 6 goals on the road in a match. Gallardo at River, I mean, you know, the rumors always come up about him leaving. He's taken River to the Libertadores semifinals in 5 of 6 times, and he's been to the last 4 in a row. I mean, he just keeps doing it. And now they're going to have a very good shot to continue on. Sudamericana last night, Lanús demolished Independiente. Gustavo cannot be happy about this. 3-1, second leg of the quarterfinals, so they're going to go through, and the Sudamericana semifinals are set. 3 Argentine clubs in the semis. Lanús will play Vélez, which will be a very fun series to watch. And Defensa y Justicia will play Coquimbo Unido of Chile. And Defensa will be favored there. Defensa could be in the Sudamericana final against another Argentine club. It'd be madness.
How cool would that be?
It would be very cool. It'd be totally tubular.
I just dig the madness, man.
So cool. I don't have a Valley girl accent. Sorry, I can't pull it off.
Valley girl. Oh, goodness. Let's see. What else was I looking at this morning? Oh, Nathan Pugh, being the plucky upstart that he is.
Oh, boy.
He has posted a picture, and he says, what do y'all think of the new West Brom crest? I actually really dig it, and instead of the bird, it is now a gravy boat.
Okay.
And there's a picture of Big Sam behind the crest licking his chops.
I don't want to see a picture of Big Sam licking his chops. I didn't get to get into it yesterday, and Byrne asked me if I had started yelling about Big Sam yet. I did when it was still a rumor.
Yeah.
It's so awful. Just so awful and annoying and bad for anybody who loves the game, and it needs to stop. Do I get it? Yeah, like they could be saved, and that's what he does, and I mean, yippee, but it's garbage soccer to watch. Don't watch any West Brom games. I don't care if they're on Peacock, NBCSN, CNBC, USA Network. I don't care. Don't watch it.
Not worth your time.
Don't watch it. If it's your team, don't watch it. It's not going to be good. It's bad soccer. It's bad life. Don't watch it. Big Sam needs to stop. All of that crew, because I think they probably have a WhatsApp group of how to be awful, boring soccer managers.
Comparing notes.
How can we strangle the life out of the game?
Well, let's
Alan
see.
Pardew has an idea.
Well,
Tony Pulis has a better idea.
Well, and considering what he's doing right now at Sheffield Wednesday, it's not a very good idea.
Well, they got players who hadn't gotten paid. They have players who didn't get their full pay for November. So I'll give Tony Pulis a very slight, very, very slight benefit of the doubt. But I'm sure he's in that WhatsApp group sharing ideas.
I'm sure he is
See,
too.
this is how we play with 8 behind the ball. How do you line them up, Big Sam?
Let's see. What did he say? Clean sheets and basically sending the ball long. That was his number 2 or his top 2 ways of staving off relegation.
Yes, which was rocket science.
Yeah, and it's like a 6-point full screen about all these things that were absolute rocket science.
Oh, wait, we got a notification on the WhatsApp group from Steve Bruce. We're going to play inside forwards.
And then Newcastle's the only one who votes down the Premier League Saudi deal.
Oh, okay, now you're jumping. No, yes, that has nothing to do with anything right now. We'll get into that. That's a protest vote because Mike Ashley wants to be, I wanted to sell the club to people that shouldn't have bought the club. Leave that to the side. You're confusing things. We're talking about bad managers right now.
All right, so who else is it? Who else is in the bad managers WhatsApp group other than Tony Pulis, Steve Bruce,
Alan Pardew, Roy Hodgson, Steve
Mark
Bruce.
Hughes.
That might be it. Definitely the charter members of the WhatsApp group.
Yeah,
it's just depressing. Like staying up, and right now it's probably more important than ever before because of the financials. I do understand that, and look, he has a gift. At saving clubs from getting relegated. It's not a great gift, but I guess it's a gift.
It's a gift that keeps on giving.
They are 3 points from safety right now. Burnley has a game in hand. And maybe what sparks it is a little bit of news about Burnley. ALK Capital, American investors, trying to get their purchase done in time to be active in the January window. That'd be very, very interesting. If Burnley, who is right now in 17th, is not Burnley-esque with some talent coming in January, and they start to edge out of this, then it's Brighton, who shouldn't be in this situation, but they are. And then who's next in the table ahead of Brighton?
Arsenal.
Yeah, that's really scary. Really, really scary. If
I have heard people legitimately say that they think that Arsenal is going to be relegated.
You act like that can't happen. They are 5 points from safety right now.
They're bad. Wow, they're awful.
If Burnley starts to look coherent because they spend some money, and that can go good or bad, but let's say that goes good for them, and they climb out, Big Sam is going to help West Brom. Sheffield United, forget it. They are horribly abysmal, record-setting abysmal. Fewer points after their first 13 games than any other team in history of the English top flight. Not even the Premier League. Everything. You're going back to the 1880s. Worst ever. You can relegate them now. Okay. West Brom is next. Fulham is next. I don't see Fulham staying up.
No.
I just don't. Does Big Sam save West Brom, and does it become a West Brom-Brighton-Arsenal battle to see who stays up?
And apparently Slaven Bilic said he wasn't aware he was going to be sacked by West Brom until he was shown the headlines on the bus as they were driving back from Manchester City.
Well, I don't think the headline sacked him. I think probably he was not looking at the papers because this has been talked about for a while. It's not like it was a shocking announcement.
Yeah, like, this is news. You might get sacked.
Yeah, that doesn't seem to make any sense. There's got to be a little bit more to that. Yeah. Man. Yeah, Arsenal's in a relegation battle. There's just no way around it. They've got 11 goals in 13 matches. Arsenal, 11 goals in 13 matches.
Arsenal.
I mean, Newcastle, sorry, Pacine, I know you're hanging out. Newcastle's on 17. Steve Bruce is not exactly inspiring.
No.
Leeds is on 17 as well. Newcastle has a game in hand on them. Leeds, we love Marcelo Bielsa. We love what he is doing. But they're only 8 points from safety right now, or 8 points into safety right now. So you have to worry about them potentially falling back. Palace is 1 point ahead of that. Villa is 10 points. If we want to say 10 points is the cap to it, Villa should be fine. Palace has a wily WhatsApp group member in Roy Hodgson who can handle just being boring and surviving, so I think they'll be okay. Leeds will not. Leeds will do what they do. They will not turn into that. Bielsa will go down swinging, and that could be to his detriment. We'll have to see. Newcastle, who knows? Arsenal's in trouble. Brighton is shockingly bad. I know our boy Sapoon is not happy about this because he's a closet Brighton fan.
Yeah.
They've been so much worse than they were expected to be. And then Burnley's going to have to get this cash infusion right if they can. Fulham and West Brom are next. Sheffield United's gone.
Yep. Newcastle head coach Steve Bruce fears that 2 of his players are suffering from long-term effects of COVID-19. He says 2 unnamed members of his squad will not be available for the match against Fulham after testing positive for coronavirus, could be missing for several more weeks. And so he says, yes, we're at a disadvantage. We hope for my sake as well as the players that that they do recover properly. Give them time to recover because it's the welfare of them and their long-term health. So they have not named those affected, but Javier Manquillo, Lascelles, Schär, and St. Maximin are among the players who've been unavailable for recent games. So they could be in trouble against Fulham this weekend.
Yeah, and that's a relegation battle, isn't it?
Relegation 6-pointer.
So we'll keep an eye on that 10-point barrier. That seems to be the number, even though the teams at the top should be okay, but we'll keep them in the mix for now. BBC running a headline. I'll ask you, John. Mikel Arteta. It's from Guillaume Balage. Mikel Arteta wants time. Will Arsenal give him time?
I didn't think that he would make it out of festive fixtures if this kept up.
If it keeps up, I don't think he makes it to the FA Cup round.
Yeah.
I don't think he makes it there. If this keeps up, if they get a win, maybe it changes. But if it keeps up like it is, they can't because they're in a relegation battle. Like they really can't because it's gone south completely. If he shows something, anything, then yeah, I want him to stay because I think he will end up being a good manager. But I don't know if you can afford to wait.
Yeah. So here's the run-in. They've got Everton at 12:30 tomorrow.
Okay.
Then the quarterfinal in the EFL Cup against Manchester City on Tuesday.
You really don't want gummy bear action right now if you're Arsenal.
Then next Saturday, you've got Chelsea. Then a relegation battle with Brighton on the 29th. Then West Brom January 2nd. Then the FA Cup third round on the 9th against Newcastle.
Stop there. That's where you would make a move if you do. You've got 2 games in that. Throw the Everton and Chelsea games out of it for now. If you pull something out of it, great. But if you don't, I hate to be this way, but if you don't win both of those games against Brighton and West Brom, you might be gone because you might be in a relegation spot.
Well, and those are teams I would think that with your roster that you think you should beat.
Well, yes, you're Arsenal. You should absolutely be beating West Brom and Brighton. Yes.
Yeah.
There's no question.
And I would think that if you don't, then it's like, no, you're done. I would be done at that point.
No, that's what I'm saying, but I want to make sure this makes sense. Like, if you are just random team whatever and you lose a couple of games, no. If you are Arsenal and you are at that point in a relegation spot potentially, you have to make a change. You have to. There's just no way around it. You have to, because Arsenal's not going to be spending a lot in the window. I mean, they were trying to get an installment plan and put a player's release clause on layaway. Like, they're not going to throw a bunch of money out there. They might feel like they have to because if they get relegated, it's even worse. But I don't think they have it. So if he can't get more out of this group, they've got to get somebody in who can. They've got to at least look for the new manager bump. Sadly, that's where you're at.
And then knowing that you're not going to be spending a whole lot of money on players, who do you bring in as that guy?
You might have brought in Big Sam, and he's not there anymore.
That's what I was going to say. Could you imagine Big Sam at Arsenal? Woo.
God. What's Harry Redknapp available? You're going to go get Harry Redknapp now?
Hey.
I don't
put it past them.
I don't know. You need somebody who understands what that fight is because it's a different one. Alex Pacine is not happy about the subject because people in the Twitch pitch are saying Newcastle's going down. I don't think Newcastle goes down. I don't think Arsenal goes down. I think they find a way. I think it's between West Brom, Brighton, and Fulham, and I'm not going to lie, I do worry a little bit about Leeds. I hope they would have had more of a cushion by now. I worry about them a little bit because Bielsa will be stubborn, and you will have moments where they are really tired and they are gassed, and that's going to be tough. Other teams will too, and maybe that's the great equalizer here. I don't know, but I worry a little bit because I think you needed more of a cushion. They should be fine. I think they will be, but if you have a couple bad results, you don't want to see it turn south quickly because it could. There's not a lot of cushion. There's just not a lot of room there right now. If Fulham, if West Brom, if Brighton get some results, then things get really, really weird.
My biggest question now is Chris Wilder. If you're 0-1-12, I mean, just because of what happened last year, you're sticking with him through the end of the season because you don't think that you can bring anybody else in that can help stave things off, or is this just
There's
a
no
lost
staving
season?
off. You're gone. Forget it. You're gone. There's nothing to stave off. So, I mean, if you're going to stick with him this long, you should continue to stick with him. I'm not, super thrilled about him and what he's done here. And I think the hype about him was overrated. But there's no point making a change now. You're so far gone. I just don't see it.
And they've got Brighton this weekend.
If they don't win that, forget it. I think they're done anyway. But anyway. Okay. We will talk more about whatever you guys want to talk about in hour number 2 after our good friend Mike Conti joins us. But that will be after John tells us about Steve Apolinsky.
Apolinsky & Associates, LLC, proud supporters of everything soccer down here in the SDH network for wrongful death and serious injury matters. There is one call, one email, one website that you need to check out, and it is his. How do you do that? Well, you can call him, 404-377-9191, get a free consultation. You can shoot Steve an email directly at steve@aa-legal.com, or you can go on to the World Wide Web, large device or small, into the taskbar. You type aa-legal.com. You hit enter, you hit return, you hit the arrow key, whatever advances it forward. And on the home page, a pop-up window pops up low right-hand corner, because that's what pop-up windows do. They pop up 24/7, 365 and a quarter. And you can get your questions answered there as well. Still don't know who's in charge of the pop-up window. We need to ask Steve about this. So for over 30 years of experience and over $40 million in judgments for their clients in Georgia and Alabama, as they're recognized as Legal Elite by Georgia Trend Magazine for being one of the top 100 firms in this here state of Georgia, there is only one place that you need to go for wrongful death and serious injury matters. It is Apolinsky & Associates, LLC, and the website is aa-legal.com.
You went too fast.
I did.
You got all out of whack.
I did.
People were yelling at you in the Twitch pitch to slow down.
Okay. Well then.
Too fast.
I'll slow down.
Well, no, not until next time.
Yeah, not until next time.
All right. Let's get Mateo in action to bring Mike Conti into the show. Oh, man, you got some really low numbers there. John. That's not good. You got a 1.5 from the East German judge. 2s and 3s.
East German judge.
Yeah, I did not care for your recitation.
A lot of folks are hoping that Mateo gets the job full time.
I mean, he's been here for a while. He's getting pretty close. You know, we like to have the virtual producers work to earn that spot. We don't want to just hand it out.
True.
Mateo has developed really, really well. He's put in some good performances. He's had some poor performances too, but we're not going to jump to any conclusions.
Well, because as being a rookie, being a first-year virtual producer, you have those moments, and it's about just making sure that the consistency gets there over time.
Yep, and all the talk about Mateo. Mike is not available at the moment. That might be on Mateo. Might be on Mike. I don't know. We'll see. We'll keep efforting. I don't know if Mateo can get coffee. Oh, there he is. Mateo did get it done.
Yeah, I'm just kind of overruling Mateo now and taking matters in my own hands. I hope that's okay.
It's a little different, and I think what it could be is we've changed the setup for it a little bit. Like our good friends at Skype have added some features that make it more like a Zoom in a way, I think.
Yeah.
And it's not like a call exactly when we do it through the show. So that might be it.
So do you mind if I just add myself to the call every Wednesday and Friday? Is that okay?
Yeah, because, that's fine. The only thing that'll happen, or I'm thinking will happen, we'll figure it out off the air. People don't care about this. We're doing back-end stuff in front of everybody, and they're like, what are these people talking about?
It's okay. They all love us, don't they? I hope.
Yeah, they loved
most of us.
They loved John missing his mark this morning. They loved that.
Oh, yeah. I got absolutely destroyed by the East German judge this morning.
Yeah, they love that. We'll figure it out. We talked at the beginning of the show about the move Atlanta United made yesterday in the reentry draft, trading up to get Andrew Gutmann's rights, and that's what they have right now. He could be cover for George Bello. He could be trade bait. You might not get him from Celtic. You might just have his rights until he decides to come back into the league. What was your reaction to all of it?
Yeah, I think that's the part that confuses me because he's on loan. And I tried to gather as much information on the reentry process as possible and what clubs need to do when they select someone in reentry. And first of all, you can't draft someone that you put in reentry. So Cincinnati could not take him. Okay. For Atlanta United to trade up for him tells me one of two things: that either they're intending to make him a bona fide offer, hope that Celtic cooperates and does whatever they need to do. And then, he could be cover for George Bello. Remember that Edgar Castillo, he's gone. So you do need some cover at left back. And Gutmann's a good option. Gutmann's a nice player. The other thing that may have occurred is perhaps they got some intel that one of the teams ahead of Atlanta United in the order, other than Cincinnati, were keen on him, and they grabbed him, as you said, Jason, maybe as a potential trade chip. And they did so for $75,000 in GAM, which is kind of a low cost if you think about it.
Yeah.
So this could be part of the 3D chess that the front office is trying to play right now. I think the two teams other than Cincinnati that would have been ahead of Atlanta United in the order, correct me if I'm wrong, would have been DC and Houston. I think
that's right.
So now you got to kind of go into it and look, okay, what could Atlanta United be attempting to extract from, say, a DC or Houston if the intent is to trade Gutmann? We don't know if it is.
Yeah, actually, with those two, neither one of them need a starting left back. And, I mean, if they're looking for cover, sure, but you got Mora and you've got Lundqvist there. Maybe Houston if they've decided Lundqvist needs competition or needs to be pushed. Maybe.
Yeah. So again, you just wonder, like, all right, what's the end result of this going to be? Are you trying to flip him for an international spot? Are you trying to flip him for maybe another player? And then the thing that I don't know, and the thing that I wish the league would make more clear, is what happens if you select a guy on re-entry who's under contract with a non-MLS club.
Mm-hmm.
Does Atlanta United now, are they forced to negotiate with Celtic? I don't know.
I don't know. I think it's a little confusing because most of the re-entry is guys who are under MLS contract who are either out of contract or option declined. So those parameters are easy. We understand it. Like teams, when they pick them in this stage, have to pick up the option or have to offer a certain level of salary based off what they made before. Like those are very clear.
Yeah, and Gutmann, the way the league had him listed, was out of contract.
Yeah, and this is the hard thing, and I hate that this creeps into mind with this stuff, is MLS has been known to have wrong designations on their website many times.
Yeah.
Because he's not out of contract. He's out of his loan period, or he will be at the end of the calendar year with Celtic, but he's under contract to Celtic. So I think some people could get confused, like, oh, then it's like the out of contract situation where you have to offer him a certain amount, but he's under contract. You have to deal with Celtic if you want him to play here, and you have to either get another loan or make a purchase. Now, what we don't know, and this is where it goes a step further for me trying to figure it out, is I would assume that in the loan agreement between Cincinnati and Celtic, I would assume there would have been a purchase option. Because that's pretty typical. I don't think you'd bring the guy in for 18 months without a purchase option. Right. Yeah. 2, was there a potential loan extension in it? So did Cincinnati, did the loan just run out and they had no recourse to keep him? I don't know. Or did they decline something in the loan, and does that obligate Atlanta to pick it up? I'm assuming not, because of the way this has been messaged. It's been his rights. It's been handled differently than like a draft pick would, for example, where they're even like the first round draft picks where they're under a contract. You know, it's been handled as Atlanta picked up his rights. So yeah, you got to talk to Celtic if you want him. If Atlanta wants him, they got to do a deal with Celtic because he's under contract there till 22 is what's all the reporting has been. Or they're going to trade his rights somewhere else in the league. Or they're just going to sit on him. I mean, if Celtic says, no, we're not going to do business with you, then Atlanta would be able to hold his rights. And for an American left back, there's nothing really wrong with that because he will make his way back to MLS at some point.
Yeah, I just feel that I don't know if I'm getting way too caught up in this. The way the press release from the club was worded, where they said they acquired the rights to Andrew Gutmann, makes me feel like this isn't done yet.
Well, it can't be. That's the one thing that I think is really important, because I saw a lot of people jump into conclusions. They have to say his rights because they don't have his contract.
Yeah. Celtic does.
Yeah, his contract is elsewhere, so Atlanta can't say we've acquired Andrew Gutmann. They can't.
Yeah. I was just going to say, Tafka's in this morning, Mike, and he says he can't imagine Atlanta United making the move without a confirmation that Celtic is willing to continue the loan or sell him. $75,000 isn't small potatoes for a 3-spot move in the re-entry draft. It's either left back depth for us or a ransom of some kind.
Well, I think $75,000 in GAM actually is small potatoes.
It's not too bad.
Because think of it this way: let's do the math on this. You gave up. What was it? $175 to Nashville for the international slot. And then you got $225 from Austin for Gallagher.
All right, so you're at plus 50.
So you're at plus 50, and then you do this, you're really only at minus 25. That's really small potatoes.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you could make an offer to Cincinnati lower than than what you made and get it.
Yeah.
So to me, there's obviously a reason why they did it, to Topka's point. And the reason is, yes, they see him as cover for Bello, and Gutman's a nice player, and he's going to join the team. Or they have intel that someone else wants him, and now they're going to try to maybe extract something from another team. I think the one challenge you're going to run into is, what kind of leverage do you have in the trade market? What can you really realistically expect to get? Because every team in the league knows that you gave up 75 in GAM to do this. So, I know in the NFL, there's a chart the general managers use that assign values to certain draft picks and what the commensurate value would be in a trade. I don't know if such a chart exists unofficially in MLS, but I don't necessarily know what the value is going to be in the trade market if you're only trying to spin Gutman's rights. If you're trying to do more than that and he's part of the package, then I guess it becomes a little more robust. But yeah, I mean, to Topka's point, I don't. To me, it's worth taking what I consider to be a $25,000 flyer, not a $75,000 flyer, to do this.
Yeah.
I mean, $25,000 is basically a pizza party over there.
in
GAM money, yes.
Right, to Andrew Gutman.
I don't have a problem with the move at all if he ends up staying, because you need cover at left back, and he's solid, experienced cover who can still get better. I mean, this is a guy who got Celtics' attention and signed a deal. Like, I'm still surprised that they haven't really given him a chance there. Celtics got some weird things going on. Jarrett Smith can tell us all about them at another time. Yeah. But it's just, he was seen as a talented player there. He's been in demand in the league. You get him for 75, you pick him up here, you get a deal done with Celtic if you can. Cool, he's your cover, and he can start some. He can give Bello some breaks that he didn't really get this year. And you're going to have Bello gone with the U20 World Cup team, you would expect, for maybe anywhere between 4 to 8 weeks. So it'd be nice to have somebody you can count on at left back.
Now, and by the way, it's not like he would be the only option as cover. Bello, you're right, will be gone at some point during the season. You hope he'll be called up to the U20s. Watts is under contract for next year, is he not?
Yeah, he would be the other one.
So he could be your other. I mean, it's not like Atlanta United's got Bello and nothing. We're just going to have to see. It's intriguing. It's a very intriguing name. I know when word came out that Atlanta United had made that deal, instantly we go to the list of players available in stage one reentry.
Who can they get? Who can they get? Who do they get? Who's on their mind?
Some names like you see Boyan and you see Pablo Piatti, and you're thinking, whoa. I mean, are you really going to try to do something like that? And then as it turns out, there are only 3 selections made in the whole league, and Andrew Gutman's the biggest name taken, arguably. So I guess we got maybe a little bit more excited than we should have. But again, Gutman's a really solid player.
That's what this draft is, though. Like, I think at times we always, it's like, oh, wow, let's get the designated player guy who's available. Yeah. But you're picking up good pieces that can help you get better here. And I saw some people's takes like, oh, he wasn't in one of the top 10 players rated in the draft. But that's not what this draft is. This draft is about your cap. It's about managing your roster. I think if you can get him where I think he would fit into your roster, which would not be on the senior roster, which would be as a supplemental spot, one of the top 4 supplemental spots, so he wouldn't count against your cap. He's not an international. He has a homegrown designation because Cincinnati acquired that from Chicago. If he's a non-cap player, a non-senior roster player, and you get him for 75 in this move, no problem at all.
Exactly. Yeah. And I also would not hold the fact against him that he played for Cincinnati.
Oh, no.
I think a big reason why he wasn't one of the 10 highest rated players in this draft is because statistically his production was what it was because Cincinnati was a boring, low-scoring team. So you don't hold that against him at all. Guy won the Herman Trophy. I mean, it's his resume speaks for itself. And like you said, if Celtic saw enough in him to sign him to a long-term deal, That right there, I think, validates how good of a player he is.
It should.
Well, and also in a draft situation like this, while yes, and Mike, you mentioned it, it's like, okay, so who's on the list, and we're naturally drawn to all those shiny objects like a Piatti or a Boyan. That's not necessarily what you're looking at. You're looking for need, and if the need carries you in that direction, great. But at the same time, if need carries you in a direction where you're looking at an Andrew Gutmann, then that's what it's about. It's about filling spots and making sure that it can fit inside of your 3D chessboard, not just looking at a shiny object.
Well, sure. And also, I mean, let's be realistic about where Atlanta United is with space, roster space, potentially cash space. I mean, we're never going to know the specifics, but I think we can all generally assume that even though Atlanta United says they have a lot of where they are feeling good about the flexibility they have, I think we can make the general assumption that they aren't in a position to be taking a guy like Boyan or Pablo Piatti in a reentry draft and trying to come up with that kind. I mean, those are high TAM level players, at least.
See, I'll disagree with you, Mike. I think they've got room to do it, but they're not going to do it in a position where they've already got a lot of talent. I think they could make maybe a TAM kind of move. You've got 2 senior spots and you got 2 international spots, but I like Boyan, for example. I don't think he fits the way this team wants to play. And yeah, we're assuming Gabriel Heinze is the manager. I don't think he has the legs to do that at this point. Piatti could, but you've got Dom, you've got Barco, you've got Eric Lopez, you've got Mulroney already. Like, you don't need him. He doesn't make you better.
Needs are in different places.
You need a 6.
Yeah.
Or you need a different piece elsewhere to get better. You don't need, like, Piatti to Dom. Like, how much of an upgrade would that be if it is one? Not much.
Not much.
That's where I think they're at. I think they can make moves. I just don't think they would make those moves.
Nope. I agree. Well put.
We'll see. The cap is so hard. I mean, we just don't know. But I think the reason I think that is because of getting that international slot and now having those couple of international spots to work with and 2 senior spots to work with. That's why Gutmann makes a lot of sense, because he doesn't take up a senior spot.
Or an international spot.
Right.
Yeah, no,
assuming this anyway. Because last year he didn't take up a senior spot. I couldn't imagine this year he would. So he's on your supplemental. He gives you the cover that you want and gives you another body that can play in this league. But you still have flexibility to go out and do things.
Yeah. And I still think it's probably 50-50 that he ends up playing for Atlanta
I would agree.
United.
Yeah. I think that's fair.
Yeah, I think that's fair, too. Also, one of the other things that I talked about in hour number 1, Mike, was Alex Ring to Austin. That was another thing.
Good move. Really good move. For $1.25 million, I think that's a good piece of business for both teams. I think New York City feels like they're solid enough where they can afford to lose Ring. To get back $1.25 million, I think is a really good piece of business for them. They can go out now and they can turn that into something. And Ring, look, he's an all-star from 2 years ago, I think, or 3 years ago now. He was in the 2018 All-Star game. He's a solid player. He'll go in. He'll be a leader for Austin. We've talked before about, potential players like Kyle Beckerman may be fitting in there from a leadership standpoint. Jeff Lorenowitz may be fitting in there from a leadership standpoint. Alexander Ring's going to go in there and could wear the armband. So I think it checks a lot of boxes for Austin. They get a really good, high-quality player who still has a lot of gas in the tank as far as I'm concerned. But he's also been in the league long enough to provide that kind of I think kind of an important veteran voice in their dressing room. So really, that's a great trade for both teams. That's a really good piece of business all around.
Some other moves around the league yesterday. Portland added a left back, Claudio Bravo from Bonfield. That makes sense with the Jorge Villafana rumors of moving him to the Galaxy.
Eric Remedi's club, right?
Yeah. Yep. Eric Remedi's former club. Colorado signed Jonathan Lewis to a new deal. They've been signing a bunch of guys to extensions. Most of their back line is under contract for a couple more years. Lewis is now under contract through 24. Houston got Fafa Pico in a trade for $275,000 in GAM. Could be an extra 50 if certain incentives are hit. Any of those jump out at you? I mean, I think we're starting to get some of these like team building moves that maybe aren't the sexiest moves, but are important moves for teams.
Yeah, I like Fafa Pico when he was in Philly. I thought he was a pretty active player. That's a good move for Houston.
I like it too.
Especially if Tab wants them to continue to play fast. It just feels like Fafa Pico is a really good athletic fit for them. The Claudio Bravo, I don't know much about him because I don't watch Bonfield. But if Villafaña is leaving, makes a ton of sense.
Yeah.
And look, that's a good pedigree. I mean, Bonfield's, as I said, that's Eric Remetti's club. Remetti came in right away in 2018 and contributed, so good pedigree there. But you're right, Jason. I mean, I think we're kind of at the point right now where Alexander Ring might be the last big team-to-team move within the league that you're going to see maybe before the end of the calendar year. I think you're going to be transitioning to the point now where we're going to start to hear about some international players coming in around the league, maybe at DP level or high TAM level. And it's going to be exciting for the next few weeks. And I think Atlanta United is going to be part of that. I mean, if you think about it, you've got DC that still hasn't announced their coaching hire yet. Atlanta has not. Toronto has not. Galaxy has not. For all intents and purposes, Seattle's open, though it looks like Schmetzer's going to stay there. So, once those four clubs I mentioned, you're talking about three very ambitious clubs in that mix, Atlanta, Galaxy, and Toronto. I think you're going to see a flurry of pretty significant player moves by those three clubs, and it's going to be a very, very active couple weeks around the league as a result.
Did you get to catch the CONCACAF Champions League stuff? Did you catch those matches, or were you looking at other stuff?
Well, I obviously was watching Atlanta United. I had an eye on LAFC. The referee did not really inspire much, in my opinion, in that match. But hey, you know what, though? That's good for LAFC. I'll tell you, I mean, if they get the same Club America that wasn't all that sharp against Atlanta United on Wednesday, if they get the same Club America this weekend, LAFC has a pretty decent chance at going through. That's about the extent of it, John. I watched a little bit of Montreal on Tuesday. They played well. New York City, they had a really bad lead up to the tournament. I can't really fault them. They just ran out of gas.
Yeah.
Honestly, the two teams that I feel played the best in the completion of the quarterfinal leg were LAFC and Atlanta.
Yeah.
And Atlanta didn't do enough to go through, obviously, but that's I think what stands out to me is that maybe those MLS teams had a little bit of an advantage because they had slightly longer rest going into the tournament. Although Cruz Azul, they were knocked out, I think, after LAFC was knocked out of MLS.
Oh, yeah. No, they were semifinals. So they hadn't been off very long, maybe a week and a half.
Yeah. So, I don't know. It's just it was a pretty decent quarterfinal for MLS outside of New York City. That would be my general thought.
I think it's an LAFC Tigres final, and Tigres is the favorite. They've looked good. Club America did not. Club America's got a lot of questions and issues and things for them to sort out going forward. Tigres is looking strong, and I think LAFC looked good against Cruz Azul. I mean, for being off as long as they were, that's going to help them on Saturday. They can beat Club America, absolutely.
Yeah. But Jason, Club America didn't lose on Wednesday, apparently.
Yeah, just like when a team loses in the World Series 4-3, they actually lost all 7 games. Which
yes,
I've missed that over the years and decades and centuries.
Everywhere else in the world, when you lose 90 minutes of the 180, Everywhere else in the world, to my knowledge, that is scored as a loss.
It is. It is. That's how it goes.
Look, and we talked about this Wednesday night on the post-match show. Look, match state and scoreline absolutely has a lot to do.
Absolutely.
With the way things played out on Wednesday. It doesn't change the fact that Atlanta United won the match and completely outplayed Club America. Completely outplayed them. I dominated them in the first half. I would not say dominated them in the second half, but played better than they did. So whatever you believe that is in your heart, go ahead and take it with you. I believe that was an Atlanta United win.
It was an Atlanta United win. Yeah. Did they win and maybe play the match? Maybe Club America played the match because of what happened in the first leg? Yes. But it goes down in the record books as a win, and they were eliminated on aggregate score over the two games. That's how these things go. And it's not saying that, they were the better team in the 180 minutes. No, they played really well. You can talk each half. You can say all that. But in 45 minutes, Club America had a 3-0 lead, and they saw it out over the next 135. Yeah. That's how these things
Atlanta
go.
United was unassailably better in 3 of the 4 halves. But Club America did everything they needed to do in the fourth half. That's what it comes down to.
100%. I don't know. It's just something where people sometimes like to argue and like to tell others that they don't understand what they're talking about when maybe it's the other way around, and it gets annoying sometimes. What are you expecting the rest of the year from Atlanta United? I mean, we've heard the talk about manager. We heard by the end of the year. We did see that happen in 18 with DeBoer. It was after Christmas, before New Year's. So do you think the manager will be in place by the end of the year?
Honestly, no.
No?
No, I don't. If I did, I think they would have done it by now, or do it today. And I don't get any sense that it's coming today. Now, by the way, that doesn't mean that I think someone other than Heinze is going to be the manager.
Right.
I think he's going to be the manager. I don't exactly know what they're waiting for, but obviously they're waiting for something. And I think it might be smart. This is just my opinion. If you're not going to do it by the end of today, I would wait until after the holiday. And the reason why I say that is I think you miss an opportunity to control the news cycle if you decide to let that drop during the holiday period when people might not be as engaged with the news or might be out of town or something like that. Look, Falcons are going to miss the playoffs. College basketball kind of is what it is around here right now. NBA is very slowly starting to get ramped up. Atlanta United can probably fill a nice little hole in the sports calendar the first week of January if they wait. So maybe that's what they're thinking. The opposite of that is Falcons might be announcing their general manager pretty soon. And I would hope that they're coordinating these announcements.
Yeah, I was going to say,
that's a good point.
With everybody under the same tent, that you would sit there and it's like, okay, what's your timetable here, guys? So you're not stepping on each other's toes.
Yeah, and again, that's why I'm saying if you don't do it today, then I don't think they're going to do it again until early January, and maybe after the Falcons hire their general manager. I don't think anything's wrong. I don't think anything has stalled. Right. I don't think there's a setback. Please let me be clear on all that. I don't think that's the case at all. I felt they might have been waiting until the end of Champions League just to, out of respect to Glassy and the players that were playing. Okay, well, now that's over. So you still haven't done it, and I don't think it's coming today. So why? And that's why I think it might not be until, the first full week of January.
I'm glad you mentioned the Falcons because I think that's maybe something we leave out of this timeline in our soccer bubble because they've got a GM and a coach hire, although maybe the coach hire is further down the road. If they're going to go GM and if they are wanting to do that before the end of their season, then that might need to go first. And then you kind of piggyback off of that in some ways. And I think you can make it work to maximize the exposure for both. But it does factor in, I believe. That's a good point.
Remember, David Tepper last year fired Ron Rivera and then one day later announced the creation of Charlotte FC.
Oh, yeah.
Or announced the name for Charlotte. They had a significant announcement the day after they fired Ron Rivera, to the point where I was up in Charlotte doing a Hawks game that weekend, and there were media up in Charlotte saying that Tepper intentionally timed things out the way he did. So, the Rivera thing would be kind of swept aside by all the excitement about the soccer team. So I'm, again, not suggesting that, something is being done to, I guess, overpower the other. But I just think there has to be some coordination in the way you do this, because these are two really high-profile things. I don't think the Falcons are going to hire a head coach until after the Super Bowl, in all likelihood. That's usually the way it works.
Yeah.
Because you can't interview anyone until you reach a bye week in the NFL playoffs if you're talking to someone with a team that's still in it. But I think the general manager hiring is very, very close.
And I'm already seeing some comments. I want to try to explain this for people who maybe don't understand how the media side works. Like, yes, you have Felipe, you have Doug, who's actually going on vacation. So, I mean, that's another thing to factor in, is a lot of people will be taking vacation over the holidays. But you have a few dedicated soccer writers, just like you have a few dedicated football writers. But with these kinds of hires and announcements, even in a virtual world, you're wanting to get all the head sports anchors from all the TV channels. Yep. You're wanting to make this more than just in your sport bubble, and you do have to coordinate that a bit. It's not easy.
Yeah, and it's not just local either. Right? You want this to be big news globally.
Yeah,
you want and that's the thing. Like, as big a story as it'll be in Atlanta, how big of a story do you think it'll be in Argentina? How big of a story do you think it'll be in Latin America? It could even be a notable story in Europe. It's just not the same during the holidays. You don't have the same level of media consumption. And this is less important, but I think there's truth to it. You don't have the same amount of people staffing newsrooms.
You don't.
Across the world.
It's true.
Yeah.
So, look, this is a big deal for Atlanta United. This is a big moment, okay? 2020 didn't go very well. Now you have something in the pipeline that's going to get a lot of people excited. You need to maximize that.
Yes.
In my opinion.
Yeah.
You need to maximize that. You don't maximize it if you let it drop on New Year's Eve, for example.
No.
So that's why, again, I really think it's either got to be today or at the very latest, early next week. I would feel it would be unfortunate and a missed opportunity if they let it drop during that holiday week when media consumption is just not the same. It has nothing to, Doug's on vacation. Doug will probably come off his vacation to write about Heinz.
Yes.
Okay. I mean,
and it's all virtual, so he doesn't have to be at the press conference. So that's
right.
Good.
And again, that's not what I'm talking about. All right. If Felipe is going to cover it, we're going to cover it. Joe Patrick's going to cover it. The usual people are going to cover it. It's more about media consumption.
The mainstream elements that aren't looking at it every single day. You need all those sports directors there. You need the TV stations there. You need all of that collective there that's a part of the footprint.
But, John, also the viewers and the readers.
No doubt.
Do you consume media the same way on December 24th as you do on March 10th?
Nope.
No. Your mind is elsewhere.
Yep.
So that's all I'm saying. And I hope no one misunderstood me. That's all I'm saying. That look, it's going to be a big deal no matter when they announce it. But this needs to be a big deal for more than just the hardcore Atlanta United supporters. This has got to be something that's going to resonate with some family up in Alpharetta who only casually is aware of Atlanta United's existence. And I know, as hard as it is to believe among us, because we're in the Atlanta United bubble, if you will, there's hundreds of thousands of people in Metro Atlanta who only have a casual knowledge of Atlanta United. Those are the people that you've got to get engaged with this hire because it's a big deal and this is a big name, and you've got to educate those people on why this is a big deal. It becomes harder to do that when media is being consumed at a lower rate. That's all I'm trying to say.
No, you're right on.
No, it makes total sense. DK with a question on if we'd have an instant stoppage time or soccer down here or whatever when this happens, and I said all of the above. So everything will be fully activated when this happens.
Yeah, I mean, we did one last Saturday when I feel like we had enough to go on, and that's what we do, and we will do that. We're going to keep providing the content, but again, please don't misunderstand. It's great that Yumi and John are doing that, but look, you got to have Channel 2 make this a big deal. You've got to have Channel 11 and 46 and 5 make this a big deal. Yep. You want ESPN to talk about it. You want, you want Taylor Twellman tweeting about this. You want Alexei Lalas, God rest his soul. Oh, he's not dead, I guess, but
I hope not.
You want 2 to NA talking about it.
Exactly.
You want the internationals and the regionals and all of it.
It's a lot of coordination.
You want people reading it and watching it.
Yeah,
that's all I'm saying. John, you've been in local TV a long time.
Yes,
I've been in local radio a long time. I can show you the Cume numbers. It's not the same holiday weeks for a number of different reasons. Than it is during a normal, other 50 weeks of the year. That might be a little different this year because fewer people are traveling, but it's not going to be much different. That's all I'm saying. You want as many members of your audience engaged in this as possible.
All right, people are demanding that I ask you before you go what you're cooking this weekend.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, what am I cooking? I don't know. Leanne kind of tweaked her ankle last night. So I think we were going to go run errands and pick up something great for tonight. And instead, I think it might be like a Chinese food takeout type deal tonight. I can tell you, I mean, this is the last Friday we're going to be on before Christmas. I'm assuming we are not doing a Christmas Day.
No.
Okay, thank you. So, I mean, I would love to, but, like I've been saying, my mind is just a little bit elsewhere during the holidays.
Yes.
So I'm going to do a pheasant for Christmas Day, and I'll probably pick that up this weekend, start brining it, and get my accoutrements for all of that. It's
pheasant.
It's weird. Like I don't want to be going all out on the grill this weekend because I know I've got a lot of fancy stuff coming
all in the pacing. It's all in the pacing.
Yeah, exactly. And really, the pacing starts right now. For all intents and I'm working next week, but for all intents and purposes, today is the last full scale work day of the year, isn't it?
Yeah, it's kind of weird where it falls this year with it on a Friday. I wonder what early next week will be. It'll be kind of normal, I think.
Yeah, kind of.
Yeah,
but I know a lot of people, they like to take the week on which Christmas falls off.
Yeah.
And I know here at the radio station, we got a lot of people out next week. So, as far as it being a normal day with everyone in, this feels like it's the last one of the year.
Yeah. I'm making an attempt my first time to try to make gallo pinto, which is a Costa Rican dish. They usually do it for breakfast or lunch. I think we had it when we were there, and I didn't know what it was called because we just got the basic Costa Rican lunch.
Yeah.
It's rice.
Just pointed on the menu and they brought it up.
Yes, we were we'll have the lunch special. It's rice, black beans. There's a special sauce to it that I've actually ordered. It's a Costa Rican salsa lisana, I believe.
Oh, wow. Okay.
But you add a little bit of pepper to it. You can add some spice to it if you want. But you eat it with eggs. You can eat it with whatever, but you eat it generally with eggs, tortilla. I'm going to give that a go and try to make that for the first time. So
please take pictures and post. That sounds really, really delicious.
Yeah, pretty simple, pretty basic, but I'm going to do that for lunch one of the days this weekend.
Very nice. Very, very nice. Lots of protein there.
Yeah. Trying something different. When I saw somebody tweeting about it, I was like, let me look into that. Oh, I can make that. I can work on that. Yeah, let me do this.
So is the egg over easy? How is the egg?
You do the egg however you want. You can make the egg whatever you want to make. I mean,
I'd scramble that. I mean, if you're doing it with tortillas, I'd scramble it, mix it all up. My opinion.
Yeah, I might do. Because I haven't fried eggs in a while. It's been a long time since I've had fried eggs because I usually go scrambled. Yeah, I might go fried. I might try something different.
Well, bring a napkin then, if that's the case.
Yes.
We will see
Several.
how it goes. Mike, thanks. Wednesday? Yes?
Yeah, Wednesday, absolutely. Looking forward to it, guys. Have a good weekend.
All right,
Be
cool.
good,
Have a
dude.
good weekend.
All right, see ya.
J-Dub on the Twitch pitch says, Lizano sauce is absolutely amazing, a gift from the gods. I've seen this from other people, so I've ordered it. It should be here anytime. It is available on Amazon. I have ordered it, and I will give you a review when I get it.
Yes, and pictures and reviews, by the way. Those are always good.
Yeah. Question about the Boxing Day scarf exchange. Atlanta United is doing that. I know Hampton and Hudson is doing it at 9 o'clock. You better be there way before 9 if you want to get that limited edition scarf. Get in line. So it's a great cause as well, but it's a very limited edition scarf that a lot of people try to get.
Yes. And me being a scarf guy, I like to see what the Boxing Day scarf. I like to see what the line is. I like to see when the line rolls out and how big it is, and what's the over under on how long do you think it'll take for the Boxing Day scarf to go to get completely sold out? An hour?
Oh no, like 15 minutes.
Okay.
I mean, it'll be really fast, I think.
Yeah, it's always fun to see the Atlanta United community roll out for Boxing Day to do that kind of stuff. It's been a really cool tradition.
Abby says last year the line was not long at all, and this year with it will be a Saturday, so maybe that increases it, but it is a pandemic, maybe that decreases it. So yeah, I don't know. This is a weird one to call. In the past, I know it's gone super fast, so maybe it will be a little bit slower here. So maybe you can get there just a little bit later, but don't show up at 9 and expect to get it.
No.
I just don't see that happening.
On the Twitters, Carlos Twinghill catches us up, and he wants to know if we've heard American Prodigy from Grant Wall, and what do you think?
I have not heard it yet. I'm going to be binging it over the weekend because we will have a 1v1 with Grant Wall on Monday to preview the last episode of it. So I like to binge things. I'm going to binge it over the weekend, get caught up, and then that interview with Grant will post late in the afternoon before soccer over there, probably about 5 or 6 o'clock on Monday. You'll get to hear from Grant Wall about how all of that came together, some reflections from him on Freddie Adu, and other questions too. Talk just about where everything is in the soccer world, and especially in the U.S. So that'll be coming up Monday on the network. What
was the last thing that you binged?
It's been a while. I've been watching so many soccer games from all over the world. I binged the Leeds Amazon series. Yeah. I binged as much as I could of the Amazon one. They set it up to kind of mini binge, which was a good way of doing it, where they drop a few episodes, not just one each week. Right. So that was good. So I did that every time because that was so good.
Yeah. For me, it was Tottenham.
Yeah, I was watching that as it was being dropped, but it was like mini binges because I think they did 3.
Mm-hmm.
I think they did 3 at a time, if I remember right.
But yeah, Tottenham was the last thing that I binged.
It's good stuff. Those types of programs, I like to kind of consume it all at one time. So, what else is on the Twitters?
President-elect is going to have to catch the show on replay because they're missing it on the Twitch pitch today. Their normal participation on the Twitch pitch is not there, so they're going to have to catch on replay. So that is the last thing on. You
really, I mean, no offense to President-elect. They didn't need an update about their listening plans for the day. I think we could have left that one out.
Yeah, well, and apparently Patrick Sullivan can tell, much like everybody else, when I can get work done on the computer during a particular segment.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Sport in Barcelona is reporting that in addition to Barcelona, Sporting Kansas City midfielder Gianluca Busio has received interest from Bayern Munich and several, quote, big clubs from Serie A and the Premier League. If Brian Reynolds is getting $9 million offers, Busio's got to be more than that.
Yes.
I would think.
Yeah.
Barcelona's been linked to him. There was reporting yesterday from Tony Juanmarti of Sport that They've talked, Barcelona and Sporting Kansas City. No offer yet. Barcelona can't really make any offers, period, at the moment because of their presidential situation. Everything's on hold with Barcelona until January 24th. They are waiting on all of it. That's when a new president comes in. Messi's waiting, according to ESPN. He is waiting to listen to the club's next president. Now there's 9 people in the race. It was 8 yesterday. He's going to wait. He's going to hear who the president is. He's going to hear what they have to say. Roman Planes is the sporting director. He's working on stuff, but he can't. There's nobody who can sign off on it.
Yeah,
that's the thing is, we wondered about Tusquets, and there's different reporting out there, and I've seen from people that maybe I trust a little bit more, that the talk about Tusquets says we got to sell Coutinho because we've got to have money come in. That's not even true because Tusquets doesn't have that authority. He can't do it. So he's the temporary guy in there. According to this report, Planes is working on things. He has plans, but all of it could be in vain if a new sporting director comes in, if the incoming president comes in and says, no, we don't want to do that, we want to do this. So all that last week of the window for Barcelona could be insanity.
Yes.
Insanity. This also means that Ronald Koeman is okay. He's safe because there's nobody to fire him.
Yes.
Kind of a good place to be in. Resolving Messi's situation, obviously, is number one for whoever wins the presidency. You've also got the transfer window because Koeman wants Eric Garcia from Manchester City. He wants Memphis Depay. He wants them now. They're out of contract in the summer, but he wants them now in January. That's going to take money. Planes is also looking at low-cost options, like options for Garcia, other center backs. He's also looking at Darwin Nunez from Benfica. I don't see them having the money to get that done. And they've started talking with Ousmane Dembele over a new deal because his contract expires in 22. But all that's on hold. That last week of the transfer window will be a flurry of activity in Spain with Barcelona.
And we're getting into festive fixtures also in La Liga, and Barca has 2 matches to make up to get caught up to 14. They've got a match at home this weekend against Valencia, big favorite. Then they come back on basically 2 days rest to play midweek at Valladolid. Once again, they're a big favorite. So you're looking at the possibility of 6 points. And right now in the standings as they're coming into the weekend, they are with 2 matches in hand with Real Sociedad, who's played 14. They played the most in the league. Barca's 5th at 20 points. So if they can get full points by the time we get to Christmas, they're hanging right there at 26, and then goal difference comes into play because Atleti coming into this weekend, Atleti, Real Sociedad, and Real Madrid all have 26 points. So Barca can get a push closer to 3rd if they get max points by Christmas.
See if they can pull that off. It's a report from Nico Moreno in the Pacific Northwest with Pulso Sports. Santiago Rodriguez, who scored the 2nd goal for Nacional in their loss last night against River, is set to join New York City next season. 20-year-old, described as a star in the making, can play as a central attacking midfielder or out on the wings. So be on the lookout for NYC adding some talent, because that was one of the reasons for moving Alex Ring, was the allocation money, but also you've got the ability to get better now, and you'd rather have a top young Uruguayan talent who's scoring goals in Libertadores playing on the left side as opposed to Alexander Ring.
Yes. So if that comes to pass, once again, it's just, for me, this is the fun part of the year where you get to see all the pieces move from one place to another and figure out who's going where and all the names and everything. So silly season for me is always the fun part.
Is it fun or is it cool?
I think the cool happens if it's a transaction to a club that you're tied to.
Okay, so it's just fun if it's other people.
Yeah, if you're a casual observer and not linked to a club, for me it's just fun to see all the moving parts go from one place to another. But if it's something that's linked to you personally, then it's cool.
Fair enough.
Unless, of course, it's Daryl Dike and he might be going to Brugge.
See, now you're trying to force it in. You missed your spot. Now it's just sad,
that
John.
Hurt.
It's just sad. It should hurt. It's sad. Inter Miami signed a homegrown, their first, Felipe Valencia, 15-year-old winger from their academy. They needed a year of time in the academy before they could sign guys. I mean, they weren't going to sign him at 14, I don't think, but that allows you to be homegrown eligible. So he is signed. He'll probably play a good bit for Fort Lauderdale in USL, but Miami signing homegrowns. Things are starting to move forward a bit.
Yeah. When you were mentioning stuff about the Pacific Northwest, the Tony Parker NWSL story kind of popped into my head too.
Okay, that's random, but yes.
Just because of the geography that was attached. It's like, oh, Northwest.
Okay. So talking about an Uruguayan player signing with New York City, but the reporter is from the Pacific Northwest, has hinted John to a story, Jeff Kassouf of the Equalizer. Tony Parker, who's not from the Pacific Northwest, but has a minority share in OL Reign, who is in the Pacific Northwest. Tony Parker, you might remember him, point guard for the San Antonio Spurs. He has said in French media that Olympique Lyon, who owns Reign, wants to move the franchise from the Seattle-Tacoma area to Miami. The Olympique Lyon group has initially targeted Miami for an expansion team before buying Reign. This should not make anybody happy. I don't know if it makes the NWSL headquarters happy. Jeff Kassouf thinks it won't. I don't know how they feel about that. I don't really know. Obviously, people in Seattle and Tacoma who I think got on board now. I mean, we didn't get to see people in the stands. We don't know what it would have been like. But I think generally people were on board with Lyon coming in and buying Reign. There was some work done to kind of put some roots down on the academy side. That feels like a shame if this happens. I don't know if Tony Parker has the authority to say this. I don't know if it's just a random thing. I don't know. But Miami's would Miami be a better market than Seattle? Miami's a better market than Tacoma, no question.
Yes.
Reign's not playing in Seattle; they're playing in Tacoma. I know it's the same, but it's not.
It's an hour's travel, and travel, that keeps people from going places. I mean, it's counterproductive to head south and with all the traffic and everything.
Yeah, if you're doing this, I think it's an upgrade. You're going to need to be playing where Inter Miami plays. You're going to need to play in Fort Lauderdale, and I know Fort Lauderdale's not Miami, but it is a better venue than you have in Tacoma. It is a more high-profile one than you have in Tacoma. That's what Johanna says. Isn't Fort Lauderdale the same as Tacoma? I guess the idea would be to get into Miami when Inter Miami does, which might be 2045 for all we know.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know if it's better or not. Now y'all got me thinking. I don't know. I don't know if they are super relevant in the Seattle area. I'm not there, so I don't have a great finger on the pulse. I think the move to Tacoma did not work for them. I don't know if it will work. I don't know if Fort Lauderdale's better. Uncle No Pockets, who's in Portland or in Portland area, says that they are relevant. So would Fort Lauderdale attached to Miami be better than Tacoma attached to Seattle for OL Reign? I do not know the answer to that. All the moving around of NWSL teams maybe isn't the best thing in general.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's an interesting one. Unk says they're popular. Lots of support for Reign, and obviously go Thorns.
Yeah, well, and I mean, selfishly, I'd like for there to be a Miami presence in the NWSL, but not at the expense of
why
one
selfishly?
of the markets.
What's your attachment to Miami?
No. It's just as a top 10 market, as a top 10 media market.
Is Seattle a top 10 market?
They're right there, like 12.
What's Miami?
Miami, depending on your Nielsen, can be anywhere from 8 to 10. So let me check on it real quick.
That's not worth it.
So, Nielsen market size. Where's my market size? Not market research, market sizes. There we go. Nielsen market sizes, not sizes.
I really need a sounder for like banging on a keyboard. I don't have anything that would fit that.
Yeah. No. Okay. So Miami's actually dropped in previous years. So Seattle's 13, SeaTac is 13, Miami Fort Lauderdale is 16.
Oh, well, see, then you don't even get that upgrade. So.
Well, I mean, but you're still also getting you would be getting another top 20 media market.
But you'd be losing one.
I know.
You're not getting one.
I want them in both, is what I'm saying. I don't want to lose Seattle for the sake of Miami.
I want a pony. I don't have one. Like, you're not getting both. They're going to move.
Here's what you're looking at. New York, LA, Chicago,
Just
Philly,
hit the
Dallas.
merry-go-round real quick.
Yes. San Francisco's at 6. Washington, Houston, Boston, Atlanta's 10. Phoenix is 11. Tampa, SeaTac, Detroit, Minneapolis, Miami, Fort Lauderdale. That's your top 16. Orlando's at 18.
I don't know what the upside is unless they feel like they're going to make more money in Fort Lauderdale. And I don't know if they would. I need more information. And why is Tony Parker talking about this in French media? That's probably not the best thing.
Yeah, and Kassouf came in later on, and he said that the quote had been updated in Le Monde, where Tony Parker is saying I instead of we, talking about the ownership group as a collective.
Yeah. Well, then it's not that big of a deal. He just wants to go to Miami.
Yeah, so there you go.
Yeah, that makes sense. According to an outlet in Ghana, man, this show keeps getting crazier. Tigres in Mexico have submitted a bid of $1 million for Latif Blessing, who is Ghanaian. Okay, I don't put a lot of stock into it because it's not coming from Mexican media. That's number one. They cover their teams really, really closely. But SportsWorldGhana.com is saying that a bid has been made and LAFC are currently studying it. That feels very low.
Yeah, $1 million.
That doesn't feel good enough to get Blessing unless he's angling to go. I'm not buying that.
And down also in the article, Vasco da Gama and Botafogo are apparently also interested.
Yeah, they've been interested. The Brazilian rumors came up in the last window. I don't know if any of those actually got to bids, but they came up over the summer. I don't think $1 million's enough. Again, unless he is really pushing to go. Yeah. And that can change the paradigm here. But, I kind of thought maybe things would slow down a bit in terms of craziness, but maybe it's going to ramp up for a few days before we get closer to everybody taking some days off at the end of next week.
Yep.
Interesting. Games today. There's not a ton, are there?
No, I mean, Premier League is tomorrow. You've got Friday Night Football in the Championship.
You've got Athletic and Huesca, and Iñaki Williams can set a record there for Athletic, which is kind of cool. He would equal Alfredo Di Stefano's consecutive league games run of 171 games in a row with Athletic Club if he plays tonight, and he should. So that's a pretty cool sidebar with that. You've got Union Berlin and Borussia Dortmund.
Right.
Yeah, that's about it today.
Yeah, Dortmund's a minus 135, FCUB's a plus 370, and your draw's a plus 300.
That is about it today. You've got the Copa Diego Armando Maradona, Arsenal hosting Argentinos Juniors at 7:10 tonight. That's on Fanatis, fntz.co/soccer down here. You can get a free trial. You can subscribe. If you go through that link, it benefits the show, and quite a few of you have, and we appreciate it. Fanatis is still surprised at the power of soccer down here, which is very cool.
Power.
Yes.
Paraguay's got action going on tonight as well. Cerro Porteño's on the road.
We can't watch that,
at
though.
Home.
We can't watch the Paraguayan League.
No. But that just to let you know what else is going on. So, I mean, but like I said, you're looking at second divisions, you're looking at League Ones, you're looking at that kind of stuff. So, I mean, very rare that you've got first division stuff going on today. But yeah, it looks like the one match in Germany in the Bundesliga, and then the Huesca Athletic match in Spain. So that looks like the big stuff in the afternoon anyway, for your afternoon viewing window.
Yeah, Byrne says Union Berlin is not a fun watch. So Ricky Ricardo, as we run out the door, asks, because I'm seeing it right now in front of me, the MLS greatest goal of all time vote, and do we agree with it? Didn't Zlatan's goal win it? Which I don't like. Yeah, it did.
Oh, come on.
Now new and existing customers can get our
and
best
now they're wanting to
smartphone
play
deal.
an ad. I don't want to hear from you, Lily. Come on, MLS. I don't need the ads to play when I click on the link. Man, you're killing me. The best goal in MLS history did not win, and it should have. It was the Dwayne De Rosario free kick from 2005. I was going to say,
that to me was the one that was stuck in my head.
That is still the free kick of all free kicks that I have never seen anything like it, because it was still rising as it was going into the roof of the net. That's almost impossible to make happen physically, but somehow Dwayne De Rosario did. That's the greatest goal for me. That is by far the greatest goal in league history for me. So
yeah.
That should have won, but Zlatan, whose agent keeps trashing the league on a regular basis. Yay, let's give Zlatan some hype. I would have changed the vote.
Let's get
I don't care who voted on it. I don't fan vote. Sorry, fans. Yeah. I'm voting for somebody else. I'm changing it because Zlatan's agent keeps trashing our league.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Exactly.
Keep an eye on the Paul Pogba situation. There are rumors emerging they might make a trade. And one possible trade was Cristiano Ronaldo, which seems to have slid down the pecking order a bit. According to ESPN, their sources are saying Paulo Dybala and Federico Bernardeschi are among the players being offered to Manchester United. They're not going to be able to get it done in January. It looks like they're definitely not going to be able to sign him in January. They're trying to make a trade because they can't pay whatever Pogba wants. So. Or what Manchester United wants for Pogba. We'll see. I don't hate that for Manchester United. Dybala and Bernardeschi. I like Bernardeschi, and Dybala needs to get out of Juve. That would be a pretty good move for both sides, I think. And if Manchester United can get some cash thrown in, even better.
Yeah, after the match yesterday with the win over Sheffield United, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer said that singing Pogba's praises, quote, "He's a Man United guy. He's been at this club when he was a kid, came back again. This is his home. He gives his best for us in training and the games. And today he was exceptional," end quote.
Yeah, but he still needs to leave. And he should have already left. And you should have gotten a deal done before. But now you just have to make the best of it because you don't need that distraction anymore.
Nope.
His agent won't shut up, so yeah, it's time to go. All right, speaking for us, it's time to go too. I'm leaving. We're all leaving. So we'll be back for the Power Hour tomorrow, 10 o'clock. We'll get you ready for all the games going on in the morning. CONCACAF Champions League tomorrow night. We'll see if LAFC can get to the final. We'll see if Olympia can pull a shocker. So lots of stuff tomorrow. Power Hour at 10 on the Twitch pitch, on the app, and on soccerdownhere.net. Thanks, y'all, for listening. Thanks for being part of the show. Thanks for all the interaction. We'll be back tomorrow. Mucha plati, y'all.
Mucha plati, y'all.